When I was a little girl, my family called me Pretty instead of Nettie because it meant I always laughed, was always happy. So that stuck to me for quite a while. Yeah. Not feeling 85 at all. I feel, I don't know, 50 at the most. But when I look in the mirror, I can see that I'm 85. But I still don't feel it. And I don't think I've slowed that much down. I've slowed a bit down. I think that's also one of the reasons that I fall so often. I go too fast. I should slow down more, which I don't. I'm born in Amsterdam in 1921. The third of 4 sisters. Dora and Clara are older than I and Shell 2 years younger than I. We always got on very well.
Because we always had to share a room.
Yeah.
Oh, we shared a room from when I can remember to the war and when we went away.
Yeah.
We had the same parents, we had the same schools, we knew the same people, we lived in the same house. So, well, that doesn't make you friends, of course. But
we did everything together. And
we've always been doing everything together.
And we still do.
And I can remember when we were teenagers op the Frederiksplein, that sometimes I got so furious with Nettie and I would say, I'll never speak to you again. We slept in the same room. I'll never speak to you again. It never lasted longer than half an hour.
No. Every child has quarrels with his peers, but, with his sisters and brothers. But that never was really very, very bad.
No.
We had a very happy childhood. I was really lucky. We had lovely parents. We all get on very well together. They were fairly strict, but not overly so, and we're quite advanced in the views, seeing that they sent us to a Montessori school, which in that time, I think Klaar was the first one in the Montessori school in Holland. And that was quite advanced, that idea. We loved school. I've always loved school, and so even if I didn't do very well, I still liked it. I always liked dancing. I always have. So I wasn't in a dance group, but we were in a group of children it was really a music group, but they did also kind of dance things. It was more singing on the whole. We also were in a sort of orchestra together with all whistles and drums and things like that. But yeah, we went there once a week, I suppose. Our life as children and later on was so different from what you have now and what my grandchildren have completely. We had, for instance, and we weren't rich. We were all right, but we weren't rich people in Holland. We had 2 maids, a kitchen maid and a parlour maid, and a nanny for us till Shell was about 7 or so. And one of our nannies was Swiss, and we spoke French with her always, because my father was a Francophile. And that's quite a different sort of life than people have here, and it was a normal life. Everybody, all my friends had the same thing. It was quite normal. And here you would think people who have three servants, where they slept with us, and they certainly didn't eat with us. although my parents were my father was a socialist and certainly wasn't looking down on people. Father and mother had friends, very good friends, Jo and Annie Fleming, and they had a daughter about Dora's age and a daughter 1 year younger than I, and nothing in between. And because they wanted the Gees to have friends, they often came, or we were good friends, and they asked me every holiday to their weekender or holiday home in the east of Holland, in Hattem. So they always asked me, would you like rather go for the summer holidays with your parents or come to Hattem? And I always went to Hattem. I spent there all my holidays, and it was a lovely place. Gees was a year younger, as I said, bigger than I was, and yeah, I loved it there. We went there swimming every day. And I know that my mother had a letter from Tante Annie, which was Gees's mother, who said, if Nettie can swim every day, she is happy. So I still. Well, of course, we knew about Hitler because we had at home a refugee from Austria, actually, and lots of people had refugees at home, and especially, of course, Jewish people. So we knew about all the difficulties, and then, of course, I just done the last exam, which you would call here university entrance. A very good friend, Ellen, came to say that the war had broken out. That was in '39. But the war started in Holland only in May '40. And then we tried to escape because we knew that wasn't a very good thing for Jews to be in Holland when the Germans were there. We could see that they would overrun the Dutch army anyway. So friends of us phoned and said they were going to Eemmuiden, that is the place on the North Sea, nearest to Amsterdam, to see if they could go to England. And are we going to? So we went, but they had a car, we never had a car, because my father went on his bicycle to his work. And when we came there were no boats going out anymore, because the boat before was already full, and that had gone out and was torpedoed by the German U-boat and sank. So no skipper wanted to take his. They were all fisher boats that went over to England. So we had to come back to Holland and then to Amsterdam. Shell walked with us, but we were both blonde, blue-eyed, and the Germans, of course, put pictures out of caricatures of Jews, so they didn't recognize us as Jews, and we could just walk around. But they said to Shell, a policeman on the Dam. Yeah, you can say it. A policeman on the Dam stopped me and said, "Now, Missy, don't wear that style. You don't help those people with it. You can get into trouble." So I got my identity card with a big J on it, and he just nearly fell over. The Germans one time just came into our house and picked us all up, except for Shell, who was hiding in a cupboard. And luckily, I was so-called dentist assistant for my aunts, and was because of that free. And my father found somebody in the German army who had defended successfully before, because who got him out. So we came out again. But then I went in hiding, and all us girls went in hiding, very, very nice family who took me in. And during the war, I didn't know where any of my sisters were, or my father and mother, no idea, and they didn't know others. And I actually only heard after the war what had happened, that my father had been in jail and nearly executed. I didn't know anything about that. You're always worried about your family and where they were and what happened to them. After the war, when we couldn't get into our house, I stayed with Dora for a while. I was dresser in a ballet company, and in that ballet company was, what's her name? Audrey Hepburn. And I made dresses for her. And I went with them everywhere through Holland in a truck, because trains weren't going yet. So we went in a truck. And then we came home and found that everything was taken out by the Germans, and on ships saying how that were all gifts from the thankful Dutch people, you see, that went to Germany, except for what the woman who was put in there, a friend, a lover of one of the Nazis, had taken out of our house, all the things that she liked. For instance, this cupboard, and that cupboard, and some other things that she liked, all in that one room, and that's all the things that was left over for us. This was all disappeared. I always had wanted to become a teacher, and a Montessori teacher. So I went to a course, did 2 years in that course, then another 2 years to become a head mistress. But in that 2 years I worked in Amersfoort, that's a little place out of Amsterdam. And then my mother got sick and looked after her, but she died of cancer in 1958, just before the father and mother were going to go to New Zealand, where my 2 sisters lived. And father asked me if I would like to take a year's leave of absence of the school and go with him, which I did. Going back was Dad, who was doing his OE. He had worked in the snowy mountains and amassed a lot of money which he couldn't use there. Most of it he had given to his mother, but his mother had died, so he went for a tour through Europe, and he went to London, got off in London, and bought a Lambretta or something, and went on a scooter all the way around everywhere in Europe. And then on one day the phone rang on a Sunday, and that was Dad saying, "I'm here in the post office in Amsterdam, in front of the main post office, and I have no idea how to get to you. How do I get?" And I said, "Stay where you are, I'll come and pick you up." And I quickly put shoes on, raced out of the door, jumped in the car and got him. Then when we came back, I found out that I had forgotten to take the keys for the house with me. Nobody was home, father was somewhere else, so we couldn't get in. So I said, "Doesn't matter, we'll do some shopping first, and then by that time father will be back." Well, we did some shopping, but I found that I walked so difficult, and when I looked down I had 2 different shoes on, one was higher heel than the other, one brown, one black. I had in the hurry to beat Dad, I had not looked what I put on. My children, I was actually a disappointment to my children, because they drew me all as a bride with veils and so on. And I was of course not in white because I was 39 by that time. And they made very nice sort of bows with flower decorated with flowers where we had to go underneath when we came out of the car. And when we came out of where we had our meal, our dinner, our wedding dinner, we had to be photographed, of course, and my father hung up his hat on, I think it was a sort of antlers that were on the wall there. I didn't want to go to Australia because of the spiders and snakes. So we decided on New Zealand, where my two sisters lived, and was an English-speaking country anyway, and a bit the same as Australia. So we came here, and Dad never wanted to go back. After we retired, I said to him, "Would you like to go back to Australia now?" No, New Zealand was now his land, and he didn't want to go back. Well, we settled down in Korokoro, which was a lovely lookout, and of course I wrote to my parents, or to my father, it's lovely, it has a big window on the south. Of course in Holland that's the sun side, and here it's just the north, and it wasn't so very nice. But anyway, it was a lovely view, and I taught in Pretoria. Did 1 year teaching training college because they didn't recognize my Montessori diploma. And then I started teaching in Pretoria too, which meant that we had lovely long holidays. And every holiday we went somewhere camping. We had actually the very first tent, which was like with windows and a porch in front and so on. And everybody, wherever we went, looked at us and said, "Oh, fantastic!" Now it's quite normal, but in that time it wasn't. And we camped in and had lovely times in Kerikeri and the Sounds and wherever, near Mount Ruapehu, and every year we went for a camping holiday. I think the children had a really New Zealand upbringing, like all people in that time did. They didn't go to motels and hotels. They just went there doing things outside, bush things. While we were both teaching, we bought this house quite cheap. This was a little, not a very little, holiday batch. So Jack stayed a year here while I kept on doing 1 year in Muurtime, where I taught in that time. And while Jack helped the builder build that piece there on and top. And so that was in '84, and we lived everything. Enjoyed it very much. After the retirement, I think it started then already in '84, Dad slowly got weaker and wasn't very healthy. He had emphysema, where he was very worried about that he would get so that he couldn't breathe. We even had 2 times panic stations that we had to go to hospital. So we went to the specialist, and he was very afraid that it was cancer. So when we came out of there, he was really quite happy that it wasn't cancer, but an artery that was bulging a bit. But of course 3 days later he was dead all of a sudden, while doing his favorite job, making beer. And I think perhaps carrying a crate of bottles with beer might have just given this embolism. I had to do a lot of adjustments to be by myself, coming home and not being able to say, listen what happened to me now, or and at night time I found it in the beginning also very scary to be all by myself. It took me quite a while to accept it, you know. But then luckily I had Shell here, whose husband Jan died that same year in October. So we both were all of a sudden widows and have had since then, we're even closer together than we had been before. And I've done a lot of things together, just instead of sitting at home knitting or something and looking at television. We became members of the U3A movement and have done a lot of very interesting courses. And I went to bridge because I thought at night I want to do something. I don't want to sit here and looking at boring television, which I don't like anyway. And I need to be with people. So I went to bridge and learned to play bridge when I was quite old. Good start, huh? No. And I enjoy it. And I go twice a week, on Tuesday night and Friday night, and play bridge. Not very well, but still all right. I think I still like to learn things. And that's another reason why I go to U3A. Because there are lots of things that I don't know and learn, and new things. I still swim every day, and early in the morning before breakfast. I'm there at 7:15, mostly half past 6, 7:15 until 7:45. I knew that I was going to retire. I learned how to spin, and then I got so much wool. And I'm not a good knitter at all, as my mother always knitted and very fast, so I never learned to knit properly. I used it for weaving, and I have enjoyed it very much. No, I certainly don't like to sit down looking at television. I often either spin or do some embroidery, which I have got there. While I can't sit still and do nothing. That's why I also don't like very much to go on visits to people, because then you have to sit and talk. If they come to me, I can do something in the meantime. To fall to pieces. Look at it. Ah, there is what happened. I'm waiting for that. It is, for me, it is very important to have a pet in the house. It is like a companion. You come home, she is very, very happy to see you, jumps up and yeah, it is lovely. And she's all the time with me, so she's like a good friend. She is really. They say the dog is man's best friend, but she is. She's not my best friend, but she's a good friend and very lovely and loyal, and very easy because I can take her everywhere with me, and she's always very, very good. Although I'm not really a gardener, I love having flowers in my garden and in the house, of course, as you can see. I enjoy music very much. We were brought up with classical music, so that's the music that I like the most. I still like to be in the bush and see, and the birds. I love the birds. I feed them every day. We have a group of women now only, all grandmothers, who write the same stories for their own grandchildren. Our life has been so completely different from the lives of my children, and certainly of my grandchildren. And we thought it would be interesting for them later on to see how we lived. So complete another life. Shell and I wrote both stories about our young life, and we didn't want to write about the same thing. So, and then we weren't quite happy about what the other one had written, because we thought we remembered it a bit different. And I think it's the older you get, the more important friendships seem to be. Accept people as they are and be tolerant of all kinds of things, and that's, I think, a very important thing, because all wars, I think, come out of intolerance. People who think they know better and everybody should be like that, which is nonsense, of course. There's all kinds of ways that you can live, and you don't have to put your own things onto other people, your own ideas. If I look back on my life, I think I've been very lucky. I had a lovely life as a child. The wartime was not so pleasant, of course, but we were lucky in that respect too, because lots of other people were not as lucky as we were and came through it. We had a lovely family. I met Jack and had 2 boys, which I wouldn't like to be without, or my grandchildren. I've been a lucky woman.